They say courage is not born in the palace. It is forged in the fire of fear. In the quiet moments when a man must choose, to run or to stand. This is the story of King Amadi, the lion-hearted ruler of Umuchukwu, whose courage was tested once again not in war or council, but in the lonely forest path to Umuego. That morning, Umuchukwu was quiet. A cool breeze swept across the village as King Amadi prepared to visit Umuego, a neighboring kingdom ruled by his old friend, King Obiano. Word had reached him that Queen Nwanika of Umuego had died of a strange illness. Out of compassion and respect, Amadi chose to visit personally. He rode on his black stallion, Ogwudaya, flanked by his two royal guards, Okeke and Chinka, both trained warriors, loyal, or so he thought. As they journeyed, Amadi shared words of wisdom. A king, he said, must walk with the courage of a lion and the humility of a servant. Without both, power becomes poison. The guards nodded, though their eyes told another story: unease, fear, and whispers of the forest ahead. The forest between Umuchukwu and Umuego was thick and ancient. Birds rarely sang there. Hunters called it the border of beasts. Legend said spirits roamed there at dusk. But Amadi laughed at such tales. Fear, he told them, is the shadow that grows when courage sleeps. The path narrowed. The trees thickened. Suddenly, Ogwudaya snorted and stomped. The king raised his hand: silence. Then came the growl. Deep, angry, hungry. A blur leapt across the path, a wild forest cat, larger than any they had ever seen. Its fur dark as night, eyes glowing like fire. The beast roared and charged. Horses reared. Chinka dropped his spear. Okeke screamed, "Your Majesty, run!" The king stood firm, but his guards fled, stumbling through the bushes, abandoning their king to the claws of death. The wild cat lunged. Amadi rolled aside, drawing his royal dagger. The beast's claws grazed his arm, blood trickled down. But the king did not flinch. "If my blood must fall today, let it fall for the honor of Umuchukwu," he whispered. The cat pounced again. This time, the king struck true, the dagger sinking deep into its neck. The beast staggered, roared, and collapsed, twitching before falling still. Silence fell again. King Amadi stood over the dead creature, chest heaving. His robe torn, his arm bleeding, but his eyes calm, proud. As he wiped his blade, he heard movement, footsteps. The guards had returned. But not to help. They were arguing behind the trees. Okeke hissed, "If the king is dead, we can say we fought bravely, but were outnumbered by beasts." Chinka whispered, "Be quiet. What if he survived?" King Amadi called out, voice cold as iron. "If you are plotting how to bury a living man, come out now and I shall teach you how kings deal with cowards." The guards froze. Trembling, they stepped out, eyes wide with shame. "We thought you were dead, my lord," Okeke stammered. Amadi stared at them for a long moment. "Dead? The lion of Umuchukwu does not die in the mouth of a cat." He tied the dead animal with vines, mounted his horse, and dragged it behind him as he continued his journey, leaving the trembling guards to follow at a distance. When he arrived at Umuego, the people gasped. There he was, their guest king, blooded but proud, dragging a dead beast as proof of his courage. King Obiano came out, leaning on his staff. "My brother," he said in disbelief, "did you fight this alone?" "Yes," Amadi replied softly, "for sometimes, the bravest journeys are those we walk alone." The elders of Umuego bowed their heads. Songs of praise were sung in his honor, and that evening, both kings dined together, one mourning his queen, the other bleeding but unbowed. Back in Umuchukwu, word of the king's bravery spread like wildfire. Drums echoed. The people gathered at the palace to see the mighty wild cat with their own eyes. When Okeke and Chinka returned, faces pale, they fell to their knees before the king. "Your Majesty, forgive us," they begged. "We were afraid." King Amadi rose from his throne, eyes stern. "Fear is no sin," he said. "But abandoning your duty is." He paused, letting his words sink deep. "From today, you will serve not as guards, but as keepers of the royal stables. You will tend the king's horses, and every time they neigh, you will remember the day you fled." The court erupted in murmurs, some expected death. But the king had chosen wisdom over wrath. That night, under the silver moon of Umuchukwu, King Amadi stood on his balcony, looking toward the dark forest. He smiled faintly and said to himself, "A crown sits heavier when courage must stand alone. Now tell me, my friend, if you were King Amadi, what would you do to the royal guards who fled and left the king alone with the wild cat?" Morals of the story. True bravery is not the absence of fear, but standing firm when fear calls others to run. Loyalty is tested in danger, not in comfort. Wisdom often lies in mercy, not in revenge.